What's all my beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Richie, and on tonight's episode, I'm going to be reacting to a video from the channel MikeIsraetel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, but we'll be adding the information in the description. And he is going to be interviewing Dr. Rena Malik, and the discussion will be around what a man needs to know about pleasing a woman. So I find this to be a very interesting, valuable, and informative video. So make sure you check out the entirety of the video. Make sure you check out both their channels. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well, as we continue to try to get to know the society we live in a little bit better. I'm going to be giving my commentary onto their conversation as we go. Now, real quick, I'm not here to shame or promote any type of lifestyle, except for making sure that you live your life to the fullest and safely. So, real quick also, before we start, I believe, at least from what I took from watching the video, that the discussion is mostly from the angle of a cisgender couple, so man and woman. As well as it seems to be a little bit more like if you're already in a committed relationship. So this is not to say you shove down anybody's throat that you need to be in a relationship or a committed relationship. Um, I mean, I'm always going to promote that over just sleeping around or hating or feeling lonely or whatever people be trying to use as an excuse to stay out of relationships. But like I said, I find this information to be very valuable, so I hope you guys do too. So with that being said, let's get right into it.
Dr. Rena Malik, I have to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
And these are questions I've never asked anyone on a podcast before. I'm way out of my element, but I think these are important questions that you could shed some light on because you are, is it okay to call you a sex expert?
Yes, you can.
Whoa, cool.
Absolutely.
Do you know that nice young lady on social media? I think her handle is like Love Bites or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do know her.
She's also
a sex therapist. Yeah.
Therapist.
Yes.
Okay.
But you could call her a sex expert.
Yeah. In the general arc of expert, but there are many different sub-expertise.
Correct.
Scott, where do you stack up in that? Sex novice.
Sex preschooler.
Oh, gosh.
That could have come off really wrong if you mixed a few words there. Yeah. All right. I have to ask you about common big picture. You can get grainy if you'd like.
Mm-hmm. Big
picture tips and tricks and approaches to making sure that if you are male, the vast majority of the people watching this will be male.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say do's and don'ts, mostly do's, maybe some don'ts of making sure that the woman with you who is there consensually, when you're both there for a good time and you're doing the sex thing, that she's having a good time. There's definitely another conversation we could have, we won't today, about how to make sure as a man you're having a good time with a partner, communication, telling her what you like and don't like, how to deliver that news, so on and so forth. But I think there's just not a ton of people out there talking about how to please the woman. Now, I would know nothing about this. I'm just the interviewer here. As the public knows, I've never been with a woman. Arguably, you're the first woman I've actually seen in real life. There's also an invisible plexiglass fence between us for your safety and mine, really, mostly mine. And so I would just love to hear from your scientifically educated perspective, as well as your intuitive perspective, because you and I had another conversation, which is another video about, porn. Mm-hmm. And one thing that you and I kind of agreed on is that the vast majority of porn does not train men to please women. Mm-hmm. Quite the opposite.
Right.
Not the opposite in the sense that it trains them to displease women, but it's just this is just all for literally the camera, literally for the camera. It's like learning martial arts from kung fu movies in the 80s. Not a good idea. And so I have a couple questions for you, if you're okay with it, about how does a man please a woman? Mm-hmm. Not from a technical, what is the frequency at which your tongue vibrates across, you feel free.
Sure.
But more from starting from it's two lovely young people sitting on a couch next to each other, all the way to same couch 2 hours later, and they're both smoking cigarettes and regretting things that happened, which I think is just how all sex ends. Yes.
I hope not.
I hope not. I need to smoke more cigarettes, I think is what I'm learning. So is it okay if I ask you a few questions?
Of course,
okay. Super. So this is kind of a big one. Take this wherever you like.
Mm-hmm.
What do most people, let's say most males, most young males that haven't had a lot of this stuff, miss when trying to develop a set of practices that help maximally please the female in the relationship? What are most people getting wrong?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they're not communicating. And communicating, I mean, like not just talking, but like even nonverbal communication, right? But I think the thing is like nobody ever like they're like, okay, we go from dinner to whatever you're doing before the date is happening to like, let's have sex. And then there's like, okay, we're just going to do this penis and vagina sex the way we see it on the TV or on the porn, right? It's just very like scripted and we just do this and hopefully she'll climax and I will climax and we'll be done.
Yep.
And so I think that's the wrong approach, right? And I think the first thing is like, okay, even before you get in the bedroom, ideally, is like, hey, what are you into? Like, it's such a simple question, but like, hey, what are you into? Like, what? And they may not know, or they may be shy to tell you, but like, it's worth trying to be like, hey, what are you into? Like, I'm into this. Like, I like this. What are you into? And so you have some roadmap of like what you're going to do. But I think another big thing is like, you have to like, cultivate the stage, right, for desire and arousal. And so like, how do you do that, right? You don't just like, okay, we just like kiss for 2 seconds and now we're having sex, right? Like
flexing your muscles, like doing the tech bounce. That's good. Yes.
No.
Damn it.
So yeah, you need to like actually like take time to explore each other, right? Like figure out so that's what I'm saying. You don't have to talk because I think it's very scary, especially if you're in a new relationship, to be like, oh, I have to talk to you and tell you like what I like. Like that's kind of scary. But you can be like, okay, like, how does this feel good? Or like, does that feel good? Or like, look at their face, you know, when you're doing those things and like sort of explore their body. Like the whole body can be an erogenous zone. I mean, there's some areas that are like, okay, like behind your shins and like your chin or something that are like not real erogenous zones, but almost every part of the body can be an erogenous zone. So like take time to explore each other's body, both male and female, right? Like actually like touch each other and be like, oh, does this feel good? Does this feel good? Like, and you know, like enjoy, like luxuriate in the experience.
Yeah. Wow. That's so wise. Scott, luxuriate. I will be overusing that term from now on. Ask me what I'm doing right now, Scott. I'm luxuriating. I'm going to practice that term.
Yeah, it's good. but seriously, it's like, okay, it's so much more than just penetration, right?
So much more. That's you and your hand in the bathroom, homie. You already got that figured out.
Right. So it's like, okay, figuring that out. And then, you know, the big thing that I think, I hope that more men know this now, but I think
this is your chance to tell more men.
But that like the clitoris is the homologue of the penis. So the clitoris is the same erectile tissue, the same exact thing. And so when you are penetrating a female and you expect her to orgasm, it's almost like me expecting a guy to orgasm from like touching his balls. Like it feels good.
Hot. Yes.
Right? It feels good, but it's probably not going to make you
not the road for that one.
Right? And so, yeah, some women absolutely will climax through vaginal penetration because of their anatomy. Their clitoris is closer, whatever.
It's also rubbing on the tissues as you're doing it.
Yeah.
So
and
technically clitoral, but you have PIV at the same time.
Depending on the girth of the phallus, all these different things, right? But like just focusing on penetration is not going to work for 85% of women. So 85% of women need clitoral stimulation to climax. And so if you are not focusing on the clitoris, whether it's manual, whether it's with your mouth, whether it's with a toy, whether she's doing it and you're watching her, like it is not going to happen. And then she will fake it. And then you will like, right. Unfortunately, there's a lot of faking that men fake it too. I'm not going to say that they don't, but a lot of times women will fake it because they just want it to be over. They're like,
faking's pretty short-sighted if you're with a partner who you want to cultivate with, right?
Yeah. But
one night stand and the guy's drunk, fucking.
Yeah.
There's your gold star, mister.
Right. Right. But sometimes you do that and then it becomes something real. Then now you faked it.
Ooh,
and how do you come back?
Well, how do you explain the first night? You're like, well, I got an explanation for the first night. It's that I lied to you.
So, and yeah, I don't think anyone should fake it, but people do, right? It happens. And so I think that the real thing is like, okay. And also I think empowering like yourself as an individual to speak up. Like you may not like the way she's handling your genitals or whatever, right? And you have to be able to say that.
Yeah.
And so like, I think it's the same thing. Like we just don't get taught how to talk about sex. And like, and so like it can be so simple and it doesn't have to be just one time, right? Like sex is a skill. This is the thing that people don't realize.
Skill.
It is a skill. And with each individual person, you have to learn the skills for that person.
Yes.
And so like people think like, oh, if sex is not great the first time, that's not the right person
Some kind of
for
test
you.
or something.
Like, or like you should be, it's natural. So you should be good at it. Like, okay, ask any woman who's had a baby, like breastfeeding is not natural. Like it's natural, but it's the fucking hardest thing you'll ever do. So like it's just like the same thing. Like sex, yeah, it's natural. You kind of have a sense of what you want to do, but to get good sex versus mediocre sex, you have to work at it and you have to like try different things and talk to each other and play. Like sex is supposed to be playful and fun. And like if you are so stressed about like, oh, I got to do this and I got to like, we're such a rush, I think in life, like, oh, I got to like really quickly get to this orgasm. And like, we forget about the journey, like enjoy the journey, literally, like actually enjoy it because that's the thing. You spend the time enjoying it, you will have a better orgasm. You will have an even more intense orgasm.
By a long shot.
So like, I think that's where people get things wrong. And this is both genders, right? It's not just men. Like, it's like everyone is just like rushing to the end and they're not actually spending time with each other and learning each other and like trying new things eventually. So, you know, longer term relationship, it's like you're eating dinner with the person every day, for example, and so you eat the same thing. Like, yeah, if it's your favorite meal, like you'll enjoy it for a week, two. Eventually you're like, okay, I need something else, right? And so the same thing is with sex. You have to like iterate and try different things and like, you know, add some novelty. And it doesn't have to be like whips and chains and like do something crazy. It can be as simple as like, well, lifting one hand off the bed or like doing it in a different room or, you know, it can be simple and it can be slightly different, slightly challenging. And it can be enough to make it such a new experience.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much wisdom there. What a whirlwind. I hope folks rewind that part and really absorb it.
All right. So for the first part, I want to reacting to my commentary. So I've mentioned this before on our channel in my storytime videos. I began my sexual experiences at a pretty young age. I had literally just became a teenager when I first started. Now for me, my only prior education was through porn. So clearly I was an expert when I first got to it, right? But I really now at 32, like what the Dr. Rena is saying, I think has I can relate to it a lot. Now as an adult male who's been in obviously adult relationships with adult women and not, you know, a teenage boy with teenage girls. But there's a huge difference in my experience and my knowledge and my approach and my mindset and how the results have been. So when I was a teenager, I think there wasn't much issue there because we were both around the same age, both hopped up on hormones, you know, so we weren't really asking too many questions. Like, at least on my end, I wasn't really asking like, oh, you want to do that? Well, technically I was. But it was more like a check off list of like, you want to do, you know, A, B, or Z, C, D, E, F, you know, everything that I had learned from like porn. And she'll be like, oh, no, yes, I want to try that. Maybe so, you know, and then we would try it and whatever they would like, you know, we would continue. Whatever they wouldn't, you know, we would obviously stop or whatever. So I guess that was like the closest to communication, like what the doctor is talking about, that I had in my teenage years, in my sexual experiences. When I became an adult, and I would honestly say until my later 20s and into 30s, when I began, I got a little bit wiser. I started learning a little bit more about like what intimacy really is, away from like again, you know, my first experiences. And I learned that there was a huge difference because now, dating people in their 20s and their 30s, or maybe even, like older, and dating women who, have also had prior partners or experiences, and even me now older, more mature, more wiser, but I also am learning like more about like my own, likes, and, what I used to like is no longer what I like, and what I used to want in a relationship, or, at least intimate relationship, committed relationship with a female is not the same thing that I wanted when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or even 18 or 19. Um, and I've had to learn how to change a lot of the approaches that I have when it comes to that type of communication with my partners. Um, and one of the challenges I would say that I've come across is when communicating that and being scared of either being told no, I don't want this, or I want to do this. And I don't know, there's been times where like I'm like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. So makes me feel some type of way, maybe a little bit insecure even. Um, and one thing that I've learned over the years has been how I've always heard that what women are looking for, or at least most women, what they're looking for in a intimate relationship with a male, compared to like what a man is looking for most of the time, intimately with a woman, are two completely different things. Whereas men, it's a little bit more, the physical aspect of it. Whereas with females, most of the time, it's more of the emotional connection. And at least by my experience, I would kind of debate that now, because I feel a lot of the time with us, there's also a lot of emotion there, where there's a lot of like pride and ego in there, where we want to prove ourselves. We want to feel, alpha. We want to feel assertive. We want to feel desired. Um, but also we want those other emotions that we don't really talk about, the connection. We want obviously the release. We want the joy of sex and all that. Um, and I've had to learn through my own experience how to put my own pride aside, to be a little bit more open minded, to be a little bit more secure, which, all of that takes not only time, but also me having to work on those things individually, right? And being able to come to the table when having these discussions with my partners, and being able to communicate to them, like I want to do this, or I'm not comfortable with doing this. I want to try this, and just keep an open mind, right? Like I said, especially when my my resources and were from porn at a young age, and I got experience, plenty of it growing up, but I had to learn too, different partners, different women are going to like different things. And also at different ages, you yourself you're also going to want or like certain things, right? Now, for me, not to, get all personal, but for me, I've always enjoyed a little bit of the cuddling. I like the little bit of the foreplay. But as a man, I think I also fall into the, all right, let's get right into it, do. Let's get to the good stuff. And I've learned to, slow down, take time, put more attention onto her. And a lot of the time, especially the way that we as men were brought up, it makes us feel uncomfortable to even think about it, even to have that type of conversation, because we're all, it's that bullshit that we're fed, since we're little, that's all female stuff, the communication, the foreplay, the doing this or doing that, her pleasure, first, all of it, we're taught that that's wrong, basically. So having to shift mindsets, especially when you're a little bit older, is always difficult. But if you are seeking a relationship, that's what you desire, a intimate relationship with a female, and you want a committed relationship, how I hear a lot of dudes, especially online or even in person, I've heard a lot of guys, in their 20s or even in their late teens, 30s, 40s, maybe even older, complain that, they're looking for an intimate partner. And a lot of the time these issues come up. And I think there's a lot of confusion or misinformation or misunderstanding. I don't know what, where I feel a big part of it is because we don't want to have that conversation because we think, oh, well, who understands women? You know, we can accept that women are sexual creatures, that women also want, sex. And there are females who are into just, I just want the sex just for sex. I don't want no strings attached. But I think for most, or at least the women that, if you come across and you guys connect and you guys are both under the understanding that what you guys are pursuing is a relationship, or at least if you're in a relationship already, I think, this type of information, like I said at the beginning, is very important to have because, you know, obviously a sex is very important, I think, for both sides, right? It shouldn't be the only thing. We've had this conversation on a prior episode. If you haven't already checked that out, make sure to check it out, where we talk about how much love matters in a relationship. And I think it's the same thing with sex. Sex is not going to be the overall important factor that makes or breaks a relationship, but it still at the end of the day matters because you want that connection. But it's all about updating and upgrading the information that you had from, I don't know, from who you were before you entered this relationship with this new partner to maybe even like the what new things you guys are into, maybe 1, 2, 3 years of dating now into the relationship versus when you guys first started. Because there's no denying that spark, it fizzles out. No matter how attractive both partners might be towards each other, no matter how much, whatever, like life happens. Uh, Sometimes routine happens, where that spark fizzles out, and I think that's normal. And it's also normal for one or both partners to also, get a little concerned, like, hey, we're not like we used to be, on top of each other and all up on each other and shit. And I think it's important. It might be uncomfortable, but it's an important conversation to have, especially if you care about that partner. And like I said, especially with people on both genders complaining about, I want to be in a relationship. Um, and this goes beyond like sex, just communication is key to have about, the way that your relationship is. Because at the end of the day, you're working with another person and you're not going to be able to read that other person's mind no matter how much time you spend with this person, no matter how long you've been knowing this person, no matter how much you guys have been through. You're never going to fully understand or know this person. So it's like a every day or every week type of meeting. You do it at work, it's the same thing with a relationship, or at least a committed relationship. you know, Obviously, if you're into, I don't know, maybe just a casual relationship, obviously this is not going to matter as much. But for all my brothers out there who are interested in committed relationships or maybe already are in committed relationships, like to me, like I said, I'm not coming from an expertise background. I think this information is very interesting and important and valuable to have as men, especially for us to have to inform ourselves. And it's not to shame us like, oh, you should know better, or no, we work with what we were taught, what we had access. I guess the best way to put it. Um, but it's never a bad idea to learn and to just continue to grow. Continue to learn how to communicate and put that into the activities in the bedroom or wherever you might be having your activities with your partner. Outside the bedroom. But if you care about the relationship, you care about the person, you've been investing so much time and effort and everything into this relationship. I think this, especially if sex is an important thing, for both of you guys to have. I think this information is good to also, just listen to. So, like I said, not trying to come from an expertise background because I'm learning as you guys as well. So we're on this journey together.
You begin the interaction by connecting in a non-sexual way entirely and establishing kind of a jovial attitude.
Yeah. I mean, you need to be in a mindful state, right? You need to turn off your brain. And so this is the issue in today's society. We are so stressed and so busy. And especially when you're in a, like for women, especially, like we say it's a lot, like you have to have your, like, oh, it's so hard to get them in the zone. But it's not that. It's just that women like have a lot of, bear the brunt of a lot of different things, not just work, but they're also maybe raising children. Maybe they're taking care of their aging parents. They're the caretakers, they're the nurturers.
Like I said earlier, I think that kind of becomes an issue. I think it is important to make the time and to schedule a specific time to, have those nights or days or whatever, whatever time of the day you and your partner choose to do it, is important. But I think you I think you add pressure, unnecessary pressure to your routine.